Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock, our weekly session on all things SOPPA. And my name is Chris Worley. I'm the Director of Technology Services for the Learning Technology Center. And as before, we're always going to try to use the Slido platform. So if you go to https://slido.com and use the code Z972. Just we did this one a couple weeks ago. Just put in there what your comfort level is with SOPPA, and that could be a little bit of everything. It could be the reasonable security. It could be the Illinois NDPA. It could be the database tools. It could just be an overall view of what's going on. So just to get a feeling for that, and I'll start maybe sharing these in the slide deck as well, just over time, where people are at and what people are thinking, and just trying to get a feel for that. The first question always is, what is SOPPA? So for those of you that are at the one level of your feelings about SOPPA, this is a good place to start and get some additional information about what all is necessary for SOPPA. And I try to use the definition that really what we're trying to do is find out where all of our student data is, and then making a list of that and have data agreements that go along with that information. And so that's really the primary purpose of SOPPA, is to know where our students' data is and keep them safe. Couple resources on this webpage that will be of value to you as you're communicating with other people is the video. Also, there's a one-page document there, the legislative brief on SOPPA. That's something we put together actually about a year ago when we were at the IDEA conference, was when we released that. Frequently asked questions is something that we're building and putting together. And reasonable security practices is part of SOPPA, and something that we have to do as school districts. And that's something we've all been trying to do all along, but continued emphasis on that. And then the website for the Student Privacy Alliance, that's another resource that I'll share with you later, that has pretty much all things SOPPA and things that we need to be aware of. And then the last thing is actually something that's put out by Robin Swartz. It's an in brief that they put together on SOPPA, and just as they're a legal firm here in the state of Illinois. They're the ones that originally helped us with our Exhibit G for the Illinois NDPA. So that's a good resource to share with others in your school district, to explain to them what we're doing and why this is important. So our weekly agenda, really, we're just trying to give you some regular information so that you can kind of see what's going on and where we're at. So this is our weekly agenda for each week. And just to give you some information about statistics and where things are at, I'd really just kind of want to focus on the first two there today. Participating districts, you can see just over the last couple of weeks, just where we've started having bigger numbers, and just people that are coming to these webinars or going to network meetings and hearing about the SOPPA. But just this is a way for you to get started and to sign up for taking advantage of the database. And then the signed DPAs, you can just see that as we continue to go down this path of uploading stuff into the database and making it available for you as your district, it's also going to accumulate, and we'll be able to see that growth of the data privacy agreements with different applications. And then I do want to bring up the third one, and I know that if you're active in doing this, you may feel alone in what you're doing as far as putting applications in there and those types of things. But I guess just looking at those numbers, knowing that each week a few more schools have jumped on and have put in originating agreements in there with DPAs and those types of things. So um, this will be an interesting chart to watch as we go and continue to grow. This is just there for you as a reference point for knowing what applications are getting data privacy agreements. So these are the latest list from updated from last week. Also, that you'll notice we have a link to the archive from previous weeks, and so you'll be able to see all the different applications that are getting links or getting agreements. And somebody posted in the chat that We Video for Schools is also in there. So we'll have to make sure we get that added to our list. As we go through each week, what we want to do is just kind of give you a couple tips and suggestions. And one of those things that we need to really be aware of is the dates that we're assigning to the agreements. The best way to do it is what best way to think about it is that the originating agreement will expire 3 years to the day that you sign it. The subscribing agreement, so if you sign the Exhibit E, it's actually going to end 3 years to the date of the originating agreement. So all agreements are going to expire for a specific vendor on the same date. And in the how-to later on after questions and answers, I'll show you where that's at if you need to update any of your agreements. Another thing is just a suggestion, and it's not something that is necessary or anything, but I think it's just going to be a good habit that if you set a recurring time to review what's listed on your public facing resource list, that that's the best way to see what other people are going to see. And so, but if there's just things that are missing or things that are just not right, that's just a way for you to go and look at that and see what's going on, and also kind of give you some encouragement to as you put things in there that you're going to see that build over time. So if you haven't found your resource listing yet, it's under tools and custom resource listing. As far as resources moving forward and what just reviewing what we have available to you, um, there's a few new things on this webpage. Down the middle, you'll see the sample communications for sending out agreements and those and then what happens when you get an agreement back and they say we're not going to sign your agreement. And so there's some sample communication in there. Then also we've got a couple spreadsheet or a couple, not spreadsheets, I love spreadsheets, a couple PDF documents that are available for you to utilize to kind of help with the workflow and just understanding what's going on with the database tools and how they can help you with this whole process. And then the probably one of the most important things is the YouTube playlist, which includes a couple videos from Sean Mullins that show you how to use the Illinois NDPA, and then also a couple upcoming events. Mainly the one is next Tuesday is the SOPPA for Teachers. And again, so the restorations here, that'll be recorded and you can make that available to your teachers at a later time too. But if you do have any presentations or any slideshows or documentation that you're sharing with your teachers, we'd welcome you sharing that with us, and so that we can build the best resource repository for you guys so that you know how best to share it with your teachers. So if you do have information, please share that with me or actually Brian Bates is the one doing the presentation. All right, so now the important part, and just looking at the tool or the questions that you guys have and try to answer those. And then if you want to stick around, I'll show you some how-to type of things just to kind of get you up to date on some different things. So the first question, I'm starting to feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of tools that are collecting student data in our district. Some are sanctioned tools, some are not. One of the points of the SOPA legislation is just to know where our data is at, um, and to have those conversations, and definitely, um, it leads you to the question of that is, or the statement that it's not just about technology, it's about, the curriculum, and why we're using certain tools, and we have all these different tools, and why do we have so many different tools. So when you see presentations by Learn Platform or Education Framework or Catch On, those tools, they'll be in the numbers of 800,000 different applications that are being used by schools. Not all those necessarily are using student data, but you're going to have a lot of different applications. And hopefully the tools that we're sharing with you, the database tools, will help with that as well. Any ideas when the revisions to the Illinois NDPA that were recently reviewed by a legal team will be in production and available? So there is, a group, so the Illinois Council of School Attorneys, which is a part of the Illinois Association of School Boards, is looking at the Illinois NDPA. The Illinois NDPA that's in place right now, there's nothing wrong with that document, nothing that says that can't be used, and it'll be a legal document moving forward. Um, right now, they're just in the review. I don't have a date on when that will be changed or updated, or if it will be at this point. So um, I think you can continue to use the Illinois NDPA version 1, and we'll continue to use that. And then as we try to get to the version 2, or the Illinois version 2 of the Illinois section of it, we'll transition to that, and any new agreements will be done with that document. Um, and just to kind of also think about, um, at any point, anybody can use a new agreement to get another agreement with a vendor. Um, and so we can always continue to build on an agreement. Um, and let's say We Video for Schools wants to sign on to version 2 of the agreement. You'll be able to do that. The We Video can do that, and then we have the resources, or we have the ability then as a database to be able to see who's all subscribed to that original agreement, and be able to communicate that out to all those people to say, hey, there's a version 2. You can update if you want to, but it's not necessarily necessary because you already have an agreement in place. Um, so I think at this point, just being active, and knowing, um, and that's fine. I see a comment in the chat were revised by our lawyer that they felt the language missing from the NDPA. Just know that hopefully they're passing that along to somebody. That would be the other thing, is that either pass it along to the Illinois Association of School Boards, or pass that along to me so that I am aware, or somebody's aware of the issues that they're having with the document, so that we can continue to make this the most duplicatable agreement possible. Because what we want to have in place is an agreement that you, as technology people, as curriculum people, as assistant superintendents, as principals, can say, okay, this is the Illinois NDPA. Nothing's changed. This is the full agreement, and this vendor is saying that this is what they agreed to, and nothing's been changed. So if it's the same for We Video for Schools, and it's the same for Pear Deck, then there's really nothing there for you to question, other than the data that's being shared with that agreement. So um, yeah, we'll continue to update you on when new agreement comes out, or an revised agreement comes out, but there's nothing to keep you from using the NDPA, unless your lawyer, who's going to defend you in a court of law if anything would happen, needs to do that. So, is anyone using Learn Platform Provider module to solicit vendors for securing a signed NDPA? I'm willing to open that up or put it in chat if anybody's doing that, and that might be something that we can bring to a weekly conversation. So if you are using something like Learn Platform or Education Framework for soliciting vendors for the agreement, you can reach out to me and share that with me, and maybe we can do kind of a little show and tell next week or within the next couple of weeks about that. So if you are doing that, you can put that in chat, or please let me know, and we can work something out on that. When a school has an agreement, K-12, can we sign the same one for K-8, or does that have to be a new one created? I don't think there's anything in an agreement that's K-12 versus K-8. It's just a matter of, does the data match up with what you're using and what you're sending to them? So that would be the only consideration, I think, if you were going to piggyback on an agreement, would be that Exhibit B that shows what data you're using. And if you want to follow up with any of these questions, if you want to follow up with any of this stuff, please share that with me at through email or another way. I would also like to hear about districts working with Learn Platform. Should we just use this tool? That is really something that you can explore and look at. Definitely look at what these other tools are capable of doing well beyond SOPPA. But as far as also with regards to SOPPA, you can pretty much do everything that you need to do with these SDPC tools. But there are other things that you can do, such as the what was mentioned there before, the soliciting of agreements through vendors through something like Learn Platform or Education Framework, and those different things. Who should the contact be when signing up our district on SDPC? Ultimately, it doesn't matter who initially signs up to SDPC. You can always add other users as needed, and remove users as needed. So I would say make that initial request, and then if that's not the right person, you can always change that information as the account information, or you can add other users as needed. The only ones that really need access are those that are going to be uploading and inputting agreements into the database. It doesn't necessarily have to be the person that signs the agreements. It just needs to be somebody that's going to be managing the database and be able to see what's going on in there. But you also want, there is a feature in there for contacting people and stuff like that. So you want that person to make sure that they're passing along. If it's somebody other than the person that's going to be managing the agreements, then you want to make sure that that person's passing along that information with you.
Chris, can I ask a clarifying question about that?
Yep. Yep.
So earlier, a couple weeks ago, we discussed that the district has to identify one or more individuals who are authorized to enter into contracts with vendors. And then I hear what you're just saying, that the person who signs the Exhibit E doesn't necessarily have to be that person who can enter into agreements. It's just the person who's, I guess, handshaking our agreements into the SDPC. Is that, am I understanding correctly?
As far as the SDPC database, the management of the database and the agreements, that could really be anybody that has an account for that system. But as far as signing the agreements, signing the Exhibit E, signing the originating agreements, you want that to be consistent in your district, and that you want that to be somebody that is designated by your superintendent or your board or whatever, so that they are aware of what they're signing and those types of things. You wouldn't want just somebody that's doing the day-to-day management of the database to say, oh, there's an Exhibit E out there, or there's an originating agreement out there, I'm gonna go sign the Exhibit E and we'll be done with that. You want to have some oversight to make sure that what you're signing is a real originating agreement, and that so you want to continue to have that person that's designated to do signing of agreements and those types of things. But as far as the management of it, uploading and putting the information in the database, that could really be anybody. That could be a secretary, that could be a um, administrative assistant.
Yeah, we're working on a team of people, and one of our teammates that was going to go put stuff in the SDPC is not the person who would necessarily enter into vendor agreements. He's on this
Right.
call too, so I know he can hear me what I'm
Okay.
saying. But I think he's picking up. I just want to make
Yeah.
sure, like,
Yeah. If
we
you
have a
need
tech
clarification
director.
on that, check back with me and we'll make sure we work through what that exactly means. Um, but the actual management of the database can be done by anybody, but the actual signing of agreements probably needs to be a designated person that has that responsibility.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep. So if you enter the email address when uploading your Exhibit E, does it automatically email the operator? So the idea of the Exhibit E is that the originating district gets a Exhibit E. Top part of it is signed by the vendor. They include an email address in that. So when the originating district puts that agreement into the database, when they are doing the Exhibit E portion of that process, there's a place to put email address in there. So the originating district would put the email address in there. So that way, when any subscribing district then comes in and subscribes, signs the bottom of the Exhibit E, uploads that as a subscribing district, then it should be automatically emailed to the vendor based on that email address that the originating agreement put in. And I'll come back to the chat here in a minute. Just ran across an Illinois company that said they had no idea what Illinois NDPA or what SOPPA is. Is this normal? Yes, that's going to be normal. We just need to, if you use that ISPA communication document as part of the resources, um, there's something that explains what the Illinois NDPA is and what the process is, and when you're sending the Illinois NDPA to them. And I would say a lot of companies will be new to what the Illinois portion of this is, but a lot of vendors have already been signing data privacy agreements in the past, so they may they may already know about it. So, but there's definitely going to be companies that won't know or claim not to know. For FALA, it's hosted by our ROE. Who's the originating party, ROE or us? How will that work? So I'll put that in my list of questions to get answers to. And there's going to be quite a few that are be like that. I mean, it's very similar to the IAR testing and all those types of things. And when we're working towards getting answers for those as well. Why was I subscribed to so many programs in the database? I did not click on those. That's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that. I think that was something that happened some time back, and I'll get clarification on that. I think I've a few more questions here, and then if I can't get to all the questions, I will. Are there any samples that can be shared of the following processes for addressing data breaches and parental rights, separate or of or embedded within a policy? Um, again, I don't have the answer to that question, but I'll definitely find out some of that stuff as well. In the chat, looks like Deborah is saying that their procedures on parent rights should be coming through press in June. So that's good. Awesome. Thanks, Deborah. Um, and I'll get clarification on that too. I'm collecting all these questions and we'll make them part of a question and answer area where we can look at all those. What is the easiest way to subscribe to an agreement that is already agreed on by another agreement or but another district? That's the Exhibit E. And if you look at last week's video, there's a way to do that. And if we have time, I'll show that process. I know this seems obvious, but how can we show exactly how you search for an originating agreement, get the exhibit, sign, and upload? And again, that should be in those videos on the line, and those should be programmed in there. But if we have time, I can show you that as well. I did see one other question in here that I wanted to look at. Can an originating agreement include custom terms in Exhibit H? My feeling is, and I'm not a lawyer, but and Deborah is, but I feel like anytime you make a change, so any agreement ultimately can be subscribed to, as long as the vendor says that you can subscribe to that agreement. The problem comes in with Exhibit H's or even changes to Exhibit G's or any of that stuff, is that at that point, your school agreed to the Illinois NDPA as kind of that model agreement. If you start putting Exhibit H's in there and start changing those rules, then you have to take that back to your legal team and time and billable hours and all those types of things. So that would be the reason for not accepting or subscribing to an Exhibit H, because you have to um, you should probably take that to your legal team and make sure that those Exhibit H changes are work for your school district as well. So that would be my reason for uh, trying to keep it as much into the Illinois NDPA as you can, because as you move to that Exhibit H, you're changing kind of that originating, or you're changing not the originating, but you're changing the original concept of the Illinois NDPA. So what I'd suggest to people is that you always start at the Illinois Student Privacy Alliance webpage to go to your login. That way you can see this other information that's being shared here, the other dates for things coming up. So obviously you're free to bookmark anything you want, but that's just a way for you to keep updated and see any new things happening. Um, so as far as managing your agreements, and I'm just going to show an example of a view all state DPA. So this, I'll show you. So the question was asked about the originator. So if you click on this, you can find all the originating agreements. Um, these will all, it's a toggle switch to sort those, and the ones with the little target there are originating agreements. Um, One of them that I researched earlier was Book Creator. So if I look at Book Creator and I actually click on Book Creator, um, I can see, that doesn't show me what I want to see. Um, I can see, sorry, Book Creator. So I can see all the agreements for Book Creator. And if you look down through here, the originating agreement was marked as date approved. So going back to our tips and suggestions, it was approved on February 10th, and it will expire on February 10th of 2024. As I look down through here, and this is something that the LTC is working on a process to look at these agreements and just kind of say, oh, this one's out of um, date. So that's the wrong date for the expires. So I would contact whoever that was and tell them to go and change that. So Chris, go and change that. So as the LTC, if I go into, or as my school district, if I go into your district agreements and manage agreements, and I look at my different agreements here, I can see that I have Booker Creator here. And over here, just looking at the management of it, I looks like I started something and I got some, I escaped out of it, or I stopped the process. So I can delete stuff that's not supposed to be there. So I can delete that one. Um, this one I'm going to leave there for a minute. But if I look at Book Creator and I look at this date, I can come over here and edit other information, and I should be able to come down here and change this date then to um, February 2nd or February 10th, 2024. Change the date approved. Oh, that was right. I think I entered the dates in wrong. 2020-02-23. And then when I save that, those dates should be updated um, to reference the right dates. So that's a way to update dates. If you actually have to upload a different agreement file, you would go through that process with change agreement. I showed you where you delete the agreement. So that's a way to look at your agreements and manage them. The other tips and suggestions was to go to tools and custom resource listing and just look at, have this bookmark. This is something that you can include on your web page to show your list of files. So if I look at this, I could have seen that this one, the date was wrong. So if I would have came to this web page, I could have seen that the date didn't match up or whatever. Um, but I can also see that this one doesn't even have a date, or maybe I started this one and didn't complete it. So if I want to come back over then to um, my manage agreements, then I can delete that one as well and not have that one listed in my agreements. So that's just a couple different things you can do with managing agreements. Um, and then just I'll go through and answer the question about subscribing and all those types of things. So just um, if I want to view all state DPAs, and I'm going to go back and look at Book Creator. So I want to get a Exhibit E signed for Book Creator. So here's Book Creator. Which one is this? Is the originating one? I sort by originating to bring that to the top if there's multiple pages. So I can see that. If I click on the top document, that should be the originating agreement between um, Tools for Schools, which is actually the, um, I'm guessing is the Book Creator company. And so I can look through that agreement and see that that's an originating agreement. I can look down through here and see uh, Exhibit B and look at the data that's being shared. I can also scroll down and look at and see if there's an Exhibit H changes made. There's no Exhibit H, so I should be pretty content on that. This is a original agreement. Nothing major here. Also, on page 2, I should be able to look at that and say, okay, there's no Exhibit H because it's not checked. Um, so what you want to do then is look at the Exhibit E, which by the originator, the Exhibit E is, should be the agreement between Sunnybrook and book creator, and you'll see the email address here, the signed, and then it's blank at the bottom. So you would download this document, sign it, and then you would come back, and that's when you would add the agreement for yourself. Yes, I have an agreement. I'm the subscribing agreement with the national level agreement. And I'm choosing book creator. I'm choosing Illinois NDPA, continue. And this is where I would put that file that I signed, the Exhibit E, the one-page Exhibit E that I signed. I'd put that in there. I'd go through and I'd save this document or this information. I would put the date approved, which would probably be today's date since I just downloaded it. But I need to put the date that the original one expires. So I need to get that information when I first um, am looking at this document. So that's 210. So I would put that 210 in there, but it would be 21024. And then when I save that, it's going to ask me about, it's not going to let me do it because I didn't upload the file. And this would be the place where if I exit out and go back to my managed agreements, I've started that and now I need to delete it. So hopefully that explains that process. Again, that's in the videos that we have currently, and we're working on getting more specific videos made that would take you through just those steps as well. If you look in the lower left-hand corner, the name of this document is Tools for Schools, Sunnybrook, and then this is Exhibit E for Tools for Schools. And then if I look at Northbrook's file for the link in the top one, that's going to be the originating agreement by Sunnybrook. So that's going to be Tools for Schools, Sunnybrook. But the Exhibit E should be the signed information for Northbrook. So the bottom should be signed by Northbrook. They've uploaded that document. And then if everything's working right, it should email to sales if that was provided by the originating district. Again, I'll make sure I get this uploaded to YouTube for future reference. The slide deck is just a continuous slide deck from previous weeks, so you should be able, there should be archives in there as well to see. Let me get back over to that screen. If I look at all things SOPPA and I look at, if I scroll down through here, we've got archives for the statistics, archives for the informational updates, tips and suggestions. So it goes through and talks about all those different things.